Hello guys, you're welcome to Beginner's Guide to Character Modeling. So I'll be showing us how to model a simple cartoon character using a box. Now let's proceed. So before we start our character modeling, we're going to hover our mouse to this point here. Now we've seen this cross sign. So we're going to left click and drag. So this helps us to split our screen into two, and we're going to click on this region of our windows, one on your notepad keyboard for front view, and this other side, three for right orthographic view. So now we're going to hide this cube and bring in our image reference. So I'm going to come to my desktop here. So this is my image reference. I'm going to click this and drag into my Blender window. So I'm going to drag to this point and drop. So now I have my reference image here. I'm going to adjust this a little bit up here. So I'm going to come to my object data property here, click on this and say opacity, click on my move tool, and I want to align this at the center of my reference. So I can select and say G and X to move on the X axis, and ensure that it's at the center of your character face. This is good now. So I can uncheck this, or I can leave it that way. So what I want to do now, I want to bring another image reference into my right orthographic Windows viewport. So instead of me going to load that reference again, I can select this and say Shift D to duplicate, right click to release, and I will say arrow on my keyboard Z and 90. So now I've rotated this reference at the angle of 90 on the Z axis. So but I want this region, this side of my character facing this other side, facing the right. So I'm going to right click on this image reference, come to mirror and say X global. So now it's facing this other direction. So what I'll do next now is to click on my windows. So this is my right reference. I'm going to select it and move this reference backwards on the X axis. And for my front reference, I'm going to select this and move this backward on the Y axis. So I can click 3 on my notepad keyboard for my right orthographic view. So if you've done that, we'll come to this place that we have filters. Select, click this and click on selectables. So this helps us if we deselect this reference image, we will not be able to select them again. So we don't select them when we are modeling our character. So if we've done that, we are done with setting up our 3D studio. So I can zoom in, and I'm going to do Shift A on my. Okay, instead of doing Shift A, we already have a cube here, so we can bring this cube back, and let's select this cube and move upwards and say S to scale this cube to this point, which is okay. So now we'll add what we call subdivision surface modifier. So this is the region. Come to your modifiers properties, go to add modifier and add subdivision surface modifier. So we're going to change this from the levels of 1 to levels of 3. So that's okay now. And we're going to apply this modifier. Click here and say apply. So what we'll do next, we'll come to this place, hover your mouse to this point where it says overlays, show overlays. Click on this and say wireframe. Do the same here. Go to geometry and click wireframe. So if we've done that now, we'll say tab for edit mode. We'll say Alt Z for wireframe mode. So now we can see our reference properly. And so what we'll do next, Alt Z back again, we'll say O on our keyboard for proportional editing. So this helps us edit our mesh properly. So if I select this and move this now, you see that my proportional editing is very large. So if I scroll my mouse inwards and upwards, I can reduce and increase the strength of my proportional editing. So I'll do Ctrl Z. So turn this on. So there are two ways of turning it on. You can click O on your keyboard to turn that off, or you come to this place and select this point here. So if we've done that now, we'll say Alt Z, we'll say A to select all, we'll say S to scale uniformly. Let's scale to these points, S and X to scale on the X axis. So we are following our character reference. So what we'll do next now, is to hold Alt and select this edge here and say S to scale on the x-axis, S and X to scale on the x-axis, following our reference. So select all this and say S and Y, no, S and X to scale on the x-axis. Select this S and X. So let's select from down, S and X to scale on the x-axis. So we'll do the same here too. X and X to scale on the x-axis. So that's nice. Say Alt Z. So we'll come to our right view also, Alt Z again. Select this. So we're going to Windows drag and select all this here and say arrow to rotate from this region. And say arrow to rotate. So we're going to select this and say G on our keyboard to grab this and move upwards. G to grab. You have to be patient about this. G to grab and move. G to grab and move again. So we're going to adjust the head also. Select this and say G. Grab that, move that to that point. Bring this forward. G, grab and bring downwards. Do the same here. Just select few vertices and drag downwards. So this is basic sculpting. This helps you ensure your character is very simple and smooth. Okay, we are done now with this region. So select this and push this inwards a little bit. So let's reduce our proportional editing. Select this and grab. Okay, Alt Z. So let's see what we've done now. So this is nice. So this is nice. So if we've done this now, the next thing we're going to do now is to do Alt Z and say 3 for face selection. And we're going to select half of our character mesh and click delete on our keyboard and let's select face. So now we'll come here, Alt Z back and add a modifier called the mirror modifier. Come to add modifier and select mirror. Click this and let's cage this also. So now we have this. So if I select this, automatically here is selected also. So I'll do Alt Z now. I'll come to my right view and do Alt Z, and I'm going to select half of this also. So I don't want this. So now what I will do now, so if you have selected half of this, you do Shift H to hide every other object, to hide unselected. Now I'll come back to my front view and say Alt Z. So one for vector selection, I can select this and move this point. Select this also and move these vectors to this point. So I can turn off my proportional editing first for now and move these vectors like this, so you can see what I'm doing properly. It's very simple. Now we'll do Alt Z back and say 3 for face selection. We're going to select all these faces. Say Alt Z, select these faces. We're going to right click and say loop to, and let's say circle. So but if you don't have that loop tool, you can come to where we have edit and come to preference. So if you click on preference, come to where we have add-on, click on add-on. So this takes you to our materials and tools region. So you can come here and select loop, and now you see your mesh loop tool. So you can activate this, and once you are done, you can click save and load. So that's how to activate your loop tool if you don't have it. So now what we do now, let's continue our process. We do Alt Z, and let's do Alt H to unhide all. So now we need to align our character eye to where it should be. So we are following our character reference. So let's select this first, and let's turn on proportional editing O on our keyboard to turn that on. So I can now move this way. I can say Alt Z again. So I can select this and move this. So let me include proportional editing a little bit, and I can select and push this backwards, follow my character reference. Just backwards a little bit, and say O to turn that off. I'm going to move these vertices forward and align these vertices, following my character reference also. You don't have to rush the process. You have to do it gradually until you get the whole idea of how it should be. So O again for proportional editing. I want to move this backwards a little bit. I don't want sharp edges. So move this backwards a little bit, and this is okay for us now. Okay, so now I'm going to select this, turn proportional editing off. Now I'll come back to my front view and make those changes also. So what I'll do now, I'll do Alt Z, 3 for face selection. I'm going to select half of it again and say Shift H on my keyboard to hide every other object, and do Alt Z. I'm going to adjust these vertices following my character reference. We are giving a little bit space up here. O for proportional editing, and say G to grab. Let's move that this way. Turn it off, and let's adjust properly again. So the eye region is very sensitive, and you have to pay attention to it very well also, so we don't make mistakes. If you've done this now, this is nice for our character eye. We'll do Alt H to unhide every other object back. So now we have to create the region for our character mouth. So we'll say 3 for face selection. Now we're going to select all this, Alt Z. We're going to select all this region here and say Shift H to hide every other region. So what we'll do now, we'll do Alt H and see how our character map looks like. Our character map is not that too big, so we're going to consider it Alt H. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to select this, and this, and I'm going to select this also, Alt H. I'll select this region. So in this region, it starts from this angle. I need to select this and say delete on my keyboard to delete this face. But now I want to have a nose loop, so I don't want this loop coming like this. I want this loop coming this angle. So I have to work on this and see how I can ensure that loop come towards this angle. So I'm going to select this also and click delete. to delete those spaces. I'll say 1 for vector selection. What I will do now, I'll say 2 for edge selection. Select this edge and click delete, and this time around come to dissolve edge. If you've done that, we'll say 1 for vector selection. Now we're going to make some cuts here. We'll say K to cut. We'll select cut from here, click on these vertices here and move to this point and say enter to activate that. Select this and say G twice to move these vertices downwards. G twice to move these vertices. Select and say G twice to move those vertices. So now we're going to create another cut from this region. K to cut from here to this point and say enter on your keyboard to enter that. So select this and say G twice to move. G twice to move. So this is going to be for our cheekbone. This loop is for our cheekbone. If I say take for face selection, hold Alt and select this edge. So now this is our loop here, which is nice. And this is still another loop out here and out here, which is good for us. So now let's proceed in our character modeling. Let's say 1 for vector selection. So select this and say G twice to move to this point. And now, so the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to make some extrusion for our character mount, because our character mount is not big like this. So we're going to consider it also. Our character mount is kind of small and not that big. We say 2 for edge selection. Select this edge, hold Alt and select this loop here and say E to extrude. Right click to release, and let's say S to scale. Scale and move to this point, and now move forward on the right orthographic view. So we're going to adjust this now. We'll say 1 for vector selection. So we're going to be very patient with this stage. Say G twice to move. Select this loop here and say G twice to move, and bring this down a little bit. Select this and bring this down a little bit. Say Alt Z. So we'll say G twice to move this loop, G twice to move this loop, these vertices. So we're going to be very, very technical in this side. G twice to move, and let's just follow our character reference as we proceed. So you don't have to be fast about it. You have to take your time to observe every point and every vertices. So select this and move. Select this, move to this point, or Z, so we can see properly. So I can select this now and say G twice to move that vertices. Select this and say G twice to move these vertices. So just ensure I'm selecting the right thing. G twice to move these vertices. Okay, G twice to move these vectors also. So we are adjusting these vertices, so we're going to have sharp lines. We don't want to have sharp edges on our character's face. So that's the reason we're adjusting these vertices. So ensure you adjust vertices, and minus anytime you add another edge loop, you are meant to adjust vertices also. So if you have so many vertices in one region, you are going to be having sharp edge. And so this is a organic character, organic modeling, which is very smooth, and is a cartoon character. So we want to ensure that our character face is very smooth and round, following our character reference. So select those vertices and G twice to move and adjust. So we are getting there. We should be done. G twice to move. G twice to move. we click G twice to move them, those vertices. So let's come to our, okay, so let's see what we've done now. And so we're going to add one more loop cut here to ensure this is smooth. We say Ctrl R to add a loop cut here like this. And we're going to come to this point and say Alt Z, select this and say O for proportional editing. So let's move that loop and let's decrease the proportional editing a little bit. Select this and select this. Say G twice to move and G to grab and move. G twice to move. Okay, so this is how our character look like. Select this, turn that off, and let's move this forward. So we want to ensure that our character cheek is very smooth. So this is nice now for our character mouth. Now we can make some few adjustments here also. Bring this down. G twice to move that. Okay, so this is nice now. So what we do now is very simple. You can do Ctrl R to add one more loop cut here. Select this, say O for proportional editing, and let's move this forward a little bit. And let's see what we've done. And move this forward. Move this forward. This is nice. So we have to ensure that our character mount is very smooth. So the mount is very sensitive as well. So now let's do Alt H. No, sorry, back. Alt H to unhide every other object. So now we're going to make some adjustments here also, because we've brought down these vertices. We've adjusted some vertices and our character has been deformed a little bit. So we can select this and say G twice to move this loop here. And let's say G twice to move this. What we'll do next, we'll see, I'm going to select this region here and let's enlarge this. So we're going to increase our proportional editing and select these regions here and let's click and drag to follow our character reference. So let's align this first, twice, meet our character. This is nice now, so let's space these vertices so we don't have any sharp edges like I said previously. What we'll do next now is to come here, press G twice to move this. So you can select this now and grab this point, select this and grab. So we want this to fit in, so, and it's nice now. So what I'm going to do next now is to make extrusion for our character's mouth. So we say 2 for edge selection again. So now this is straight, so we're going to select this. And but before we do that, we'll say 3 for face selection, or Z. Let's select all this region again and let's say Shift H to unhide unselected. Shift H to hide unselected. Alt Z. 2 for edge selection. Hold Alt and select this edge here. So what we'll do next now, okay, before we extrude now, let's select this and let's move this upwards. Let's close our character mouth a little bit. Turn off proportional editing and let's move this to this point. 1 for vector selection. Let's just ensure this is straight. Let's ensure this is straight and let's move this upwards also. Okay, this is okay now. So I can do 2 for edge selection. But if I do 2 first, let's say 1 first. And let's move this forward a little bit. That is okay now. I'll say 2 for edge selection. Hold Alt, select this edge and say E to extrude. Right click to release and move on the Y axis. Now let's turn and come into our mouth and say E to extrude. Right click to release. Move uniformly. E to extrude again. Right click to release and move inwards. So this is for our character mouth now. Let's come to our front view and make some few adjustments. 1 for vector selection. And say Alt Z. So this is nice. So now we're going to say 2 for edge selection. Select this edge and move downwards like this. Select this edge and move upwards like this. 1 for vector selection. Select this also and move upwards. So this was just styling our character's mouth. This is nice. So this is how this is how it looks like. So we can also add more details here. You can move this downwards also. And move this upwards also. And move this upwards. Let's Ctrl Z. Let's leave it this way. So this is nice, and you can also add some few details here. Ctrl R to add one loop cut here. I'm going to select this from here to here, and I'm going to move this forward on the right orthographic view. Do the same. Select this and select all this. I'm going to move this downwards or forward a little bit. So you can still select this also and see how we can move this upwards. G to move upwards. So if we've done that now, we've done justice to the character mouth. Now let's work on our character nose. Or Z. Select this and move this to this point. Select this and move this upwards. We'll select this and move this upwards like this. And move this to this point. So we're creating the region for our character nose. Select this and move this upwards also. Move this upwards a little bit. Or Z. So if we've done that now, we come to our right view here and make some few changes. You can select this and move downwards also. Select this, push inwards, bring downwards. Select this and bring this to this point. Now we'll do Alt Z now. We'll say 3 for face selection. to select all this region and say E to extrude, right click to release and move on the Y axis, 1 for vector selection or Z. So we're going to move this following our character reference, select this vertices here, select this and move upwards, select this and let's move this a little bit. So we're going to move this downwards for Z, so we can adjust our character nose properly. So we can select all of this and say arrow to rotate this way, or Z to bring this down. So let's do this way. Our character eyes. So we'll come back here to make some few adjustments. We can move this way and let's do Alt Z. Let's see what we can change here also. If you've done that now, that's very simple. Come to our front view and make some few adjustments here also. Bring this way. Let's shape this properly and bring this downwards. So that's okay now, and we're going to move this way. So we can add one loop cut here. Ctrl arrow to add a loop cut and say Alt Z. So we can shape this and bring this upwards a little bit. G twice to move this loop and say G twice to bring this downwards. Let's adjust this region also. So at every point in time we have to be moving vectors to ensure that we follow the right steps. So now we'll do Alt H to unhide every other object. So now let's continue our modeling process. So now we can create what we call our eye region, our eye socket. You can say 3 for face selection. So select this face now and ensure and say delete on our keyboard and say delete face. Say Alt Z back. So you can select all half of this again and say Shift H to unhide unselected. So now we can now say Alt H now, so we can see properly. Let's align this, bring this downwards. Let's push this and select this also. Say G twice to move. And let's come here and let's bring this forward a little bit. So always pay attention when modeling and try to move vertices at every point in time. Always try to move vertices at every point in time. So let's create this region. We need space in here. G twice to move. And so this is okay now for our character eye. Let's Alt H. G twice to move this backwards. This is nice now, and we can bring this way a little bit, not too much. What we do now, we say 2 for edge selection. We're going to bring in, okay, let's hold Alt, select this and say E to extrude, right click to release and S to scale uniformly, just a little bit. And now we can now say tab for object mode and say shift A, go to mesh and bring in a UV sphere. So scale the UV sphere uniformly and move upwards this point, and say S to scale again and move upwards, S to scale, ensure a little bit bigger. So come here now and make the adjustment, move this inwards and push this forward a little bit. So we want to ensure this eye socket fills this hole in here, S to scale. So ensure it fits inwards, it fits inside our eye balls here. Let's push this to this point. Let's take this backwards a little bit and move it this way. Okay, so this is okay now. It fits in properly. So now we can make some few adjustments. You can say S to scale again and push backwards a little bit. Okay, this is okay now for our eye socket. So it fits in properly. So what we'll do next now is to say select our character head and say tab for object mode. And we can do E to extrude, or we can push this inwards a little bit. If we take it outward, it's not bad that much. So we can select this edge here and push this inwards also. Now we can select all and say E to extrude, right click to release, extrude inwards a little bit and say E to extrude again. And say slash to hide that, and we can say E to extrude again. So we can come here and scale on the Y axis. Hold Alt, select this loop and scale this on the Y axis also. Now let's say slash on hide our on hide back. So now we have this looking like this. Now we can say 2 for edge selection. You can select this and push inwards a little bit. So basically this is just the simplest way on how to create a cartoon character. Let's push this outwards, so try to adjust this. Now for object mode, and now we can see, so we're going to move this to this point. So I don't want to see that hole there, so I want to just shift this to this point and say tap for object mode, and you can make this adjustment also by moving this forward. We're going to select this loop inwards and say S to scale. We're going to create another loop inwards also first, then we're going to scale that one inside. S to scale uniformly like this. I say slash, so looking like this. You can select this loop also and say S to scale inwards. And say Ctrl arrow here and say S to scale also inwards. If I say slash now to unhide, so this now fills those regions up. So what we'll do next now is to say tab and say Alt H to unhide all. Okay, tab Alt H to unhide all. So we're done with our eye socket now. And we can come to our front view, select this and say arrow twice to rotate. Rotate to this point. Ensure it's straight. And now let's do Shift D to duplicate. Right click to release. Move it to this point here. So right click now, come to mirror and say X global. This is nice now. So we can now examine our character 3 here for right orthographic view. Alt Z, tab, let's select this and let's increase this a little bit. Okay, this is nice now. So what we're going to do now, we're going to create our character ears before we create our character eye. So we'll say tab for object mode or Z, and now so I want to create my character ear. I want it to be very sensitive, so I'll say 3 for face selection. So I want to select from this point, like this. So I want to select from here. It's going to be here, and so the ears most times are very sensitive also, and I want the ear to be very nice. If you watch from our back of our character head, so this is how the ear looks like. So I'll do, so I'm going to select from this region. I'll say 1 for vector selection, so I can just shape this a little bit. G to move this downwards, and okay, 3 for face selection. So select just this region alone, and in your front view, let's see where it gets us. If I say E to extrude, wow, it's still far, so I'll do Ctrl Z back. I think I have to select from this region. Can also select from this region also. So I don't want my character here to be very complicated, so I'm seeing what I can do. So I'm just looking for the best. Okay, I can select from this region also, and now let's select from this region. So select all this region and say E to extrude, right click to release, and let's just move like this and say arrow and Z, and let's push inwards. If you watch now, we have to move this forward to this point, so we have to see our character here very well. And now so our character here is looking kind of very big, which is not nice. It's looking very big, and we can make that adjustment. So we'll do Ctrl Z back to the way it was. So we can move this to this point and say right click, come to your loop tool and say flatten, and say arrow and Z to rotate. Now move this backwards, arrow and Z again, to move it this way. 1 for vector selection. So now we can now shape this our character here like this. So we can turn and make some few adjustments. So I don't want my character here to be very big, so that's why I'm using this procedure. So this is okay for me now, and so but if I should select all this and drag to this point, It's going to make my ear very big, but I don't want the character ear to be very big as well. But select this and I should drag to this point and select this and move. So my character ear will be looking very big from the back. So that means I will have to add a loop cut in here. Ctrl arrow to add one loop cut. You can say S to scale this and move to this point like this. Select half of this and say G to move. So I can move this like this. So I'll come here also and make some few adjustments. Come here and make some few adjustments. And make some few adjustments. So I don't want this looking like this. So anything we do now can change the shape of our character here. But first, let's do tab for object mode, and let's come to add modifier and add what we call subdivision surface modifier. And let's see how our character here looks like. Can come back here now and turn off our wireframe. So this is how our character here looks like. Though it's not looking bad, but I don't want it to be very big. I want it to be very small, not too big, but we can still enlarge it. But if you look at it from back here, it's looking very big. So I don't want it to be very big as well too from the back. So now I'm going to turn this off back, and I'll say tab for edit mode. We'll do Ctrl Z now. So I'm going to remove that loop, so it's going to remain like this. Ctrl Z. So I'm going to increase this region also. Just to follow our character reference. So I'll adjust all these vertices. So my character here is going to be very big. I'll say G twice to move. G twice to move. And in here, I'm going to select this and select this and move backwards. G twice to move this backwards. This is just basically how to shape your character here. So I'm going to move this also. Move this also. Come here and make some few adjustments. So this is going to be popping out. So now we can add a loop cut back here. So before you add a loop cut, I'm going to add one loop cut here. Ctrl arrow to add one loop cut. So we've come to the end of this first level, and we're going to continue this ear model in the second level of our character modeling. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned and ensure you watch the next level of our character model. Thanks.